Individuation I have spent the last quarter of a century reading, teaching, and applying depth psychology as an ethical practice and imperative. My primary focus during this time was analytical, or Jungian psychology. Jungian psychology's keystone is the idea of individuation. Whilst individuation is challenging to explain simply, it means something like becoming a more whole and honest version of yourself, maturing beyond a singularly egoistical perspective and identity. As you might imagine, this is simpler in theory than in practice. Nevertheless, be that as it may, it has guided my own ethical approach to life and the observational lens I bring to bear on my research. There is a lot to say about it, but today, I want to share only one idea with you about individuation and my observations of it in practice. Most people can't do it. I'm not talking about people with no knowledge of or interest in individuation, whom I excluded from this evaluation. I am talking about the relatively very small group of people who idealize or pursue individuation as an ethical practice or a psychological ideal, or who proclaim as much anyway. Individuation is a strange barometer because its measure is admittedly nebulous. Whilst many may talk of individuation, they will generally be less outspoken on the topic of examples of individuated subjects. There are once again legitimate reasons for this, which the intended brevity of this post precludes me from elaborating on. This difficulty in measurement acknowledged, I am still confident in my evaluation of success, or maybe integrity, in the pursuit of individuation being a rare phenomenon. Why is this? Once again, I concede that there are quite obviously many varied reasons. Psychological acuity and the capacity for independent thought, like any other virtues, are not democratically and evenly distributed. And I'm not even getting into the minefield of uneven opportunities for such an elitist pursuit as individuation here. The issue I want to emphasize here is typically not explicit in the instruction, albeit a subtle and oblique hint of individuation. What is not said is that it requires no small measure of courage. Courage even to the point of recklessness. Individuation in its final analysis is the loneliest of all roads, because it requires that the subject evaluates virtue from a primarily subjective perspective. That all objective or collective external moral guidance, in adopting this ethical approach, becomes at best a vague suggestion of virtue, much like the traffic lights in Johannesburg. The individuating subject is called on to discover truth as a form of personal revelation. She is meant to be Jung, not a Jungian, i.e., the doctrine of individuation cannot itself be relied on beyond a certain level of development. A subject who takes up this path as a serious and committed ethical practice must be willing to stake her very life on it. In fact, in taking it up, that is exactly what she is doing. Her wager is, I trust myself, or some internal source of revelation, to redeem me and guide me home. One could respond here with the rejoinder that is surely all that any of us can and must do. Make our hypothesis, as Jung put it, and then live by it. The difference, however, between theory, a clearly defined set of tried and tested axiomatic truths, and theoria, contemplation, self-reflection, can hardly be overstated. Whilst lip service is paid to this ethical imperative by many, few have the gonads to actually live life like this. Of those few who do, most fail, or if not fail exactly, are casualties of this existential experiment. Optimal self-direction, i.e., that which actually leads to a relatively favorably outcome, is the province of very few. Hard work, courage, and perspicuity are essential naturally, but don't, in and of themselves, guarantee a favorable outcome. What is required as an essential addition to this alchemical process is grace, which can neither be bought nor manufactured.